Welcome to the Old Fart Geeks podcast. This week on our 9th episode, we discuss a bunch of, old retro tech stuff. I'm Jason Oakley. This is my co-host, Will Tompkinson. Hey, Will.
Hey, mate. How you doing?
What's going on?
Thanks for the warning, by the way.
That's all right. That's all right. We haven't done a show in forever.
No, it's been a while.
Milo was missing us. Hello, Milo.
Oh, yeah. No, it's been one of those things with work and...
The top two Australia's podcasters here with our third show for the week.
Oh, no, we're going off, right? It's going nuts this week. So... But,
people can't get enough of us. Just have a look at the download numbers, jeez. And the people who are playing on Aussie podcasts, Aussie podcast radio.
Aussie Tech Radio, yeah.
Jeez.
There's that. There's, of course, if you guys subscribe to Aussie Tech Heads, you would have got us last Thursday or Friday whenever Glenn got that up. Of course, last week we also did the Obsidian Lost podcast. That show that I can't say, but I do.
I got my retro T-shirt today. Waka 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 waka.
And so as I mentioned, I'll get this stuff over and done with. First, as I mentioned, at the end of, I think I said it on Aussie Tech Heads, and I may have said it on Obsidian Loft, but I can't remember. Thanks for watching, guys. It's been great. We really appreciate the. We don't get a lot of feedback.
Yep, sorry, that's the end of it. Thanks for watching.
We don't get a lot of feedback from you guys, but we can tell by the numbers and the consistent downloads that you guys obviously enjoy what we're doing. So we don't normally stop to thank you guys. We sort of don't think of you as a person as such. You're sort of just an entity. Went really when we're doing the show, but it's really great to see you guys enjoy it. We'd love to get more feedback. So listen to the end of the show and get the contact details on how to do that. But it'd be really handy if you guys got any things you want us to reminisce about or talk about in general, or you're not sure on something and you want to know how something works, or
we're going to have to do a whole show about 8-bit computers. And then one about 16-bit ones.
What about the binary system?
Games that we used to play on them, and just all that sort of stuff.
And then you do the
talk about VZ that I had, Commodore 64s we both had, Apple 2s and 2Es and
XTs.
There's the only 2Es that I never drank. And if I have a look at the videos now, you're looking a bit short there, son.
Yeah, I was just thinking that. Is your cropping messed up?
No, that's what I see in Skype.
How about that? Is that any better?
That's a wee bit better, lad.
I think what happens is
you can't help being the short arse.
Now my video's frozen.
I did that.
I think what happens is Son hops on the chair because she's a short ass. She puts the chair right down. Yeah. And then I sort of don't think about it, and I hop back on it. And sort of like...
We represent the yellow brick road.
Plus I was slouching, which probably didn't help.
Guys at work that randomly walk behind me and put their foot on the lever, and I go, shh, while I'm on the phone to a customer. Like, will you stop that?
I'd love to electrify that or something.
Yes, if they touch it. Ha now who's dead? Lol.
Sucker. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Who died for their actions.
Yeah, right. So retro-y stuff. Not a lot, but I got new watch, Fitbit, bloody awesome. Get one.
That's new. That's the opposite of what the show's about, right?
It's monochrome.
Oh well, in that case, that's perfectly acceptable.
It's even better than 8-bit. It doesn't have any colours. The resolution is probably the same as one of my old computers as well.
Not far off,
Only that was on a big monitor.
That's it, yeah. What was it?
My VZ was 64. 128 by 64 on the VZ.
64, yeah. Some of them were 80 by... Because that was NTSC, wasn't it? I think by default.
Commodore 64 was 320 by something.
By 280, I want to say, but I could be... It was very square.
You can say whatever you like, man. I don't mind.
Was much... Some of them... Because I had the Apple II and I had the Amiga... Amstrad and an Amiga 500 and the Commodore 64, and one thing I noticed about the Commodore 64, maybe because I had it on the proper monitor, was its resolution was very square compared to the Amiga that was a 6x4 aspect.
320 by 200 in 16 colors.
So, but it could have just been the monitor as well. I don't know. But out of all of those, my Amstrad had EGA.
Yep.
CGA, then EGA, wasn't it? Yeah. So my Amstrad actually had EGA graphics, which at the time was 256 colors. It was unheard of.
thought CGA was like 16
Or
colors.
16.
Yeah.
Oh, hang on. Is it CGA was 8 and each? Oh, I could look it up. I can't remember which way it goes, but it had.
Sounds like work.
Yeah, I know, right? But yeah, it had much more definition in the colors, at least, than all the other units I had. Although the Amiga was pretty good. Probably it was the best between the Commodore and stuff like that.
Yep.
Yeah, so EGA was Enhanced Graphic Adapter.
Yep.
Which was it doesn't say. Well, 16 colors. There you go. So EGA was 16.
CGA was 4.
Yeah, CGA was 4, EGA was 16, VGA was 256. That's right.
Yep. And I was so happy to get 256 colors in 800 by 600 on my Seng Labs 3000 card.
But see, depending on what resolution you're running too, because EGA could produce 16 simultaneous colors from a palette of up to 64 of a high resolution up to 64 by 350. But you had something like the Tandy, which could do the same thing, but it was at a lower. It was only 320 by 200 resolution. So yeah, it sort of depended on the. Even back then, resolution was a thing. But I guess if you're 320 by 200, if you're watching it on a AV out, was fine for your TV. But if you had what was that monitor, the C64, the Amiga 500 monitor that everyone had, that was like the most highest quality monitor ever made.
The 1048, I think.
1024, something. Yeah, that thing was just the resolution. I don't know what resolution that monitor was, but there's no way it was just like 640 by 480 or something. It was.
Yeah, Amiga 1200 and Commodore 1048S monitor. For sale on Gumtree currently. What?
Oh, really?
Really?
How much?
Where is it? Where is it? See what happens when you get me into these things now? Oh, it's in pounds.
How much?
How many pounds are you going to get it shipped over?
How much?
I can't find it on the page. I hate these links. They just go to the generic page.
Just go to
Rare Tandy Vintage Radio Shack TRS-80 fully work. £50.
That's like $4,000.
I know, right? Retro arcade table, Pacman, Donkey Kong, Bomb Jacket, many more games can swap out what you want. £380. I need a bank loan for that.
But the thing I think made it really good was, even if it used the standard input in the back, it actually had separate red, green, and blue cards in it.
Yep.
It actually had a proper RGB module. So it sort of, you could run everything from SCART to composite to whatever VGA all through this monitor, because it would just handle it. I don't know what, as I said, I don't know what the resolution. I know what the resolution was supposed to be, but that was way higher than that. Had to have been.
Yep.
Had to have been, because those monitors, man. I remember even I had one up until a couple of years ago, and I was using it on a DVD player as the workshop monitor.
Oh, okay.
And like, it looked as good as any modern TV. It really did. So yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, they had really crisp screens, didn't they?
It was intense, and it had the amount of adjustability had obviously H phase and V phase, and had the what do they call it, the where the screen does the bowing thing in the middle, the distortion. I can't think of what it was called, but yeah, it had that. It had and then it had a sharpness.
Yep. Like
a pixel sharpness as well as the contrast and brightness, and man, it's just so adjustable. I want one again.
Commodore Amiga 500, graphics 736 by 576i, or 368 by 576i. So 576i.
Yeah, so PAL and that was interlace. So that was PAL.
One's 4 bits per palette, and the other 6 bits per palette, depending on how much color you want. It would have a lower resolution.
Yeah, lower resolution, more color. But that was interlace too, so it was, what do they call that? Double scan or whatever it was called?
Yeah.
So, yeah. So that was where that Commodore monitor, Amiga monitor, really shone. It handled interlace so well, whereas you plugged into your TV and you just see all the lines scrolling down the screen.
Hold and modify mode, which allow 4,096 colors to be used on screen simultaneously.
Wow, really?
Yep.
Holy crap. And, you know, when you're displaying a picture like that, you needed every single one of those 4096 colours.
Yeah, and they could gen lock it to an external video signal. That's why they were used for a lot of TV production back in the day.
Ah, yes. Okay, that makes sense now. That makes sense. I always wondered why, you know, you look at a lot of the, even looking now, we actually dragged my nephews out of his car. My nephew's got one that was his brother's before, and that was mine before that. So it's been around for ages. But yeah, when you actually look at what it was capable of, like there's a screen grab, an actual literal screen grab.
Yep.
I mean, you can look. It's rounded. It's, you know, it pops out. It's readable. It's
so high quality.
You know, such.
It's elite.
Yeah, it's elite. There you go. The 108 Game Boy. Oh no, Prince of Persia. The only game in the world that annoyed everyone.
There we go. I so wanted one, and then I didn't end up getting one.
Paint. Oh, yeah, because you actually had a mouse, you could do that.
Yes, we'll be talking about when that first came out as well.
Lemmings, if that's not the coolest game ever.
I know, right? My dad still plays it to this day because I got him some really old versions that'll run on Windows.
I still play it. I reckon it's cool.
Yeah, one of my friends, Aaron Adiri, got the rights from Psygnosis to make it for Palm. And he released it on Palm, and then he wanted to put it on like iPhone and Android, and they're like, nope, we want to retain the rights for those. We're not going to release it, but you can't either. And it's like, what? He read, I think his website was mobile1up.com.
Yeah, that's so typical of that sort of stuff. Yes, no, you can't use it because we're never going to.
Yeah. So if you have a look on his website, he's got a game called Caveman, which is based on the same thing, only it has cavemen that go around and get animated, and basically it's Lemmings, but they use cavemen graphics and different sounds, so it doesn't infringe on it.
Yeah, that's it. It was always annoying when you click on the wrong lemming and you accidentally hit like self-destruct or something.
Yeah.
You'd kind of blow the whole lot up and you're like,
what? Pop, pop,
whoops.
pop, 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 pop. And they all go, oh no!
That's it.
Have a look at that link that I sent through there.
I shall do. So, no, I actually had that on my... That was one of the reasons I really didn't want to get rid of the N95 I had.
Yep.
And actually, if you want to catch a bit of old tech, watch last week's episode of Aussie Tech Heads. We talk about some of the more interesting...
we can't help it.
Mobile devices that have... mobile phones that were around, like the N-Gage and stuff like that. But yeah, my N95, I had Lemmings on that, and I thought that was the best game ever on that. I can't get a decent Android version of it, unfortunately.
Yep. So this would be Lemmings that you couldn't get on BlackBerry, iPad, iPhone, Mac OS X, and it was on the Palm Pre and touchpad that don't exist anymore.
That looks cool.
Yep.
It looks really cool, actually. That was really well
done. He's got mad skills, that guy. He's just moved back to Perth from Sweden as well.
Okay.
Just bought a house here.
Easy, medium, obscure, and insane.
Sounds about right.
Warning, spoiler alert. We've posted the solutions to all 120 levels to help you.
Yeah.
So, but, oh, there we go. Oh, okay. Wow. Yep, he's definitely a coder.
Yep.
Let me give you links to all our videos. Yeah, no worries. We don't need a GUI. We'll just, just do it the old-fashioned way.
Yep, he wrote his own cross-platform system so that he could write the game in his code and then go export to iPhone, export to BlackBerry, export to Palm, export to Apple, export to macOS.
Well, why not? I suppose if you got the option to do that.
Hardcore.
That's it. There we go. There's a... That's what it looks like. A floater. Oh, look great. He's got a floater. Blocker. That's what I always forget to do. That I'd always forget to block the lemmings coming down.
They fall off the edge.
Walk off the other end. You're like, oh, that loud. I wish there was a way to change what they were doing though, so that you didn't have to destroy the couple that would always be
left over. Yeah, you have to pop one.
Yeah. Oh dear. I'd show you my favourite game of the era, which was Zork, but it's not exactly a graphically intense game.
Zork Zero?
It's yeah, the original Zork.
When I was in high school, I had to do what do they call that when you said work experience into this place, and they're like, well, we don't have much to teach you, but we've got Zork over there, so why don't you sit there and play that and Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy on the desktop. So I was like, yeah, that's all I did for a week of work experience for school. At the end of it, the guy who I did the work experience with is like, what do you want me to write on a reference for you? Just tell me what to write and I'll write it down and then say that you were really good and stuff. Like, okay, here's all the stuff. Watch out, you're going to get eaten by a grue.
Yeah, I know, right? I think oh man, you play this for hours and I'd still get it wrong. I'd always forget. I ended up, towards the end, I started writing down as I was going which way I was supposed to go, but I was forever forgetting about it. So
Infograms went really well with their stuff because they go by context. So if you'd be like, put ball, and it'd determine whether there was a ball on the table in the room that you're in, or if you had a ball in your pocket currently. So it'd say, where would you like to put it? And then you could say in pocket, and it would determine whether you meant put the ball which is in my pocket somewhere, or put the ball which is on the table into my pocket. And it's a mad programming they had there. They call it the Z interpreter, I think it was, and they've got it on a lot of emulators like Frodo and things like this that can download the code from it and then just emulate out the game for you. It's really good.
That's the way I do it, I guess. There was one.
There was the point and click ones like Zack McCracken and the
there was heaps of those.
No, they didn't have Hello Kitty.
I was going to say Hello and Harry, but that's not right.
Secret of Monkey Island, Sam and Max. They were nuts,
favorite.
Sam and Max. They were
Sam
crazy
and Max,
psychotic.
Full Throttle was another one. Leisure Suit Larry.
Yep. You know, it's funny. I saw there was a thing in the newspaper about computer companies bringing out games that are not for girls, like Leisure Suit Larry, where this guy who has to get laid. My cousins, who are 5 girls, thought Leisure Suit Larry was the funniest game they ever played in their whole life, and they played it all day, thought it was hilarious. And I said, have you seen this thing where they're like, oh, they're making games that are not for girls? They go, it is for us. We love it. It's freaking hilarious, the stuff this guy does.
Yeah, I know. I don't know what that was about. They're like my wife's on. She used to play it and she loves it. And I don't know what they're on about. Like, it's a game. If you can't distinguish the difference between a game and real life, you got bigger issues.
Ken sent me. You have to remember to say Ken sent me.
Yeah. Of course, there was Mist.
Oh yeah, just click on everything.
Yeah, it was like Zork, but
they made real-time Mist, which the graphics would move and stuff instead of just be screenshots.
I've actually got the last Mist on CD around here somewhere. I don't know. It was like it was okay, but it kind of lost the appeal the original one had, which was very much, sort of straight up. So I mean, it was fine, but I didn't like it as much.
Yep.
The Longest Journey. It's called that for a reason. Although it kind of reminded me of what was that? Was it not Beneath the Steel Sky? It was on PlayStation. Final Fantasy.
Oh, okay, yeah.
It reminded me sort of that. Well, Final Fantasy reminded me of this or something like that.
Yep.
But there was a very basically there's one that probably won't be in here was one of the Star Wars ones. Was it Last Jedi or Return of the Jedi. No, it's one of those sort of ones. It was supposed to be a first-person shooter, but it was very much more like a point and click.
Yep.
It just had that sort of feel about it. So the Star Trek one, actually, if you ever played the original Star Trek game, it was very much the same as well. It was very point and click.
One that I liked playing was Broken Sword. You ever play that one?
Oh yeah. Yep, Broken Sword. I'd forgotten about that.
It's where they got a lot of the inspiration for things in Da Vinci Code and stuff like that. Are all in that game. Yeah, you play the game and you're like, I remember that from that movie or book, depending on which one you did.
I was going to say, which way around was it?
Yeah. Well, this one was out way years before that. Had a lot of the same stuff about the shadows of the Templars and stuff like that.
Oh, okay.
I did a lot of beta testing for Astralware, a company over in the UK, and they did a port of Broken Sword to Palm. I got to be a beta tester for that and tried it all out.
Good old Full Throttle. I love Full Throttle. That was one of my... I played that.
I'd never heard of that till you started talking about it in one of our other shows.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I loved it. It was great. It was so much fun. It was just a really...
A lot of good animation.
Well, it wasn't great. No, it was fun. It was a very fun game. It was very down to earth. It was very real. Like, it was... The main character, he behaves a lot in the way you would expect someone to behave in the situation.
Oh, yeah. Day of the Tentacle.
Day of the Tentacle. Oh, wow. That's another up there with Leisure Suit Larry. That's I'm sure they basically just re-sprited some of these games, eh? Use the same game with different sprites to make them different, but yeah, no, it was pretty cool. Actually, Day of the Tentacle, those sort of screenshots there actually reminded me of what's that movie with the plant? Little Shop of Horrors.
Oh yeah, Little Shop of Horrors.
Yeah.
Have you got Labyrinth there? That was a good one I played on the Commodore 64.
Labyrinth was amazing. That's actually I've actually got that on. Somebody ported it to Java.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I've actually played it. And again, I got it bloody wrong with the lying doors again. Every time.
They're always too crazy to figure.
Oh,
that was in that was in the episode of Doctor Who with Tom Baker. He had two doors, and one of them he had to figure out which was the correct door to go through with the same thing that they had in there. So that would have been before Labyrinth.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, I actually played Labyrinth on the Commodore 64 before I'd ever even seen the movie.
Yep.
So I didn't know how to work it out. And then once I'd seen the movie, the thing is with Labyrinth, it was a little bit different than a lot of these games because it would change.
Yep.
It wasn't the. It was done on. Must have been done with a random. The Walking Dead. This is a new game actually. I've played this. I've got this on my computer at the moment.
Oh, okay.
It wasn't just the same game over and over again. It was procedurally generated with like random number generator, so it would actually change every time you played it.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, you could just click on the left hand side every time the first time, and the next time it'd be wrong. So
yep.
Yeah, no, it was good. There was two games that on the Commodore 64 tape drive were not worth the wait.
What was that?
One of them was Michael Jackson Moonwalker.
Yep.
Because it would load the entire side of one tape. You'd flip it over and you'd load halfway through the second side before you got into the game.
Yep.
And you would walk 4 steps and you'd die.
Oh, okay.
So you had that. And then the other one, I can't remember the name exactly, but it's something like Casio Sports Race Boat Challenge or something like Race Yacht Challenge or something like that.
Yep.
And it was basically, back in the day when they had those big, like Casio was sponsoring the racing yachts.
Oh, okay.
It was one of those things.
And it was pretty
And it was the same sort of, it loaded 2 entire cassettes before you could play the game.
That's
which
crazy.
I don't know how, because you only had so much bloody RAM in those machines. But yeah, you could load 2 entire cassettes.
Yep.
And that would let you select your yacht.
God. Crazy.
That's it. That's all it did. And it was like an hour of sitting and waiting
I found that the Pyramids of Mars Doctor Who story, the Eye of Horus is located at the end of a corridor beneath a pyramid. Corridor is divided into a series of chambers, and progress through the chambers dependent upon solving logical and philosophical problems. Sutekh navigates Scarman and the robot through each problem with no deliberation, but the Doctor and Sarah, which is funny because Sarah was the name of the girl in Labyrinth who had to go through the doors.
Yeah.
Slower. At the last puzzle, a transparent cylinder materializes around Sarah. The voice of Horus tells the Doctor the chamber has 2 switches and he is allowed to ask one question of one Guardian of Horus. Guardians materialize at the same moment as the Crucible and Mummy robots swathed in gold bindings. One robot will always tell the truth and the other will always lie, but which is which? So the Doctor had to figure it out. Since the Guardians are contra-programmed, so one will always give a false answer, the Doctor asks one Guardian if he were to ask the other Guardian which was the life switch, which would the other indicate. The Doctor reasons that if the Guardian he asks tells the truth, then it must indicate the death switch. If it was the liar, then it would still indicate the death switch. The Doctor presses the other switch in the chamber and Guardians disappear, freeing Sarah. So there you go, exactly the same thing. I was like, no, I know that. That was in Labyrinth. But yeah, maybe a bit before. What year did that come out? 1975. So when did Labyrinth get released? 1980s probably.
Looking at, Labyrinth, let's see. 86.
86, so 11 years before Doctor Who.
15-year-old Sarah accidentally wishes her baby half-brother Toby away to the Goblin King.
Yep.
So
it's funny that it was Sarah in both of them.
Yeah. Yeah, it was, I wonder. I don't want to say there was any sort of, cross-imagination there, but...
No.
So...
Don't cross the screens with your mojo.
Oh, nothing worse. Nothing worse, especially at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Speaking of retro, check it out.
Oh, seriously?
Slinky.
Man, I never got a metal slinky. I never got plastic ones.
My daughter won this for me in one of those gaming places and arcade ones, and then she got one, but she got a rainbow plastic one. I was like, you should get the metal one. She's like, but I'll have the rainbow. Now she just plays with my metal one all the time, and I get it back every couple of days to untangle the damn things. So, shall we have a bit of a talk about some of our new stuff? Do you want to start off?
You mean the tech news that we flogged unceremoniously from Tom Merritt?
Which was the whole point of the show.
That's right. All right, let's do that. We go in the Wayback Machine back to 1790. Back when the French National Assembly acted on a motion from Bishop Charles Maurice de Talleyrand.
Sounds good.
I'm sure I'm mangling that, but you get the idea.
We do that every episode.
To create a simple, stable decimal system of measurements unit. The earliest meter unit chosen was the length of a pendulum with the half period of a second. This system eventually evolved into the metric system.
And the US is still fighting against using that because
well,
reasons.
The metric makes sense for a lot of stuff, but then you suddenly get something random like a hectare.
Yep.
Like, that's not...
You give someone an inch and they take a mile. You give someone a centimeter and they take a kilometer. It doesn't...
Yeah, it's like a hectare. Like, it's 10,000 square meters.
Yep.
But I guess the issue is when you see a lot of the stuff, because I was looking at a block the other day, and instead of going, it was a, I don't know, whatever it was, 3.5 acre block for sake of a number, they said it was a 27,342 square. You're like,
what?
Really?
Just talk to me in acres. I understand that stuff.
Yeah, I can imagine an acre. See, my dad's 75, so I grew up in Imperial. I grew up with inches and feet and yards and
I've got no
miles
idea.
And all that. And for me, it's so much easier because you hold your thumb out, like that's an inch pretty much. So it's really easy to imagine what an inch is. But you go, oh, give me a 10 mil spanner, and you go,
what?
10. That's like, So yeah, for me, the maths and the engineering side of me loves metric. But the ease of use and the sort of lazy measurement system loves Imperial.
Yep.
So I find them both have a great place. Like, let's just move that 6 inches to the left. It's 6 inches.
Yep.
Or move that 3 foot, which is also a meter, or a yard.
What's your monitor measured in?
Well, that's the other thing too, because this monitor here, I know, is 24 inch diagonal monitor, but I've seen, I think, is it the monitor I've got downstairs or something? It's like
60 centimeter.
Yeah, that's right. And you're like, what?
I had this guy. I was working at a place, electronic computer store that sold electronics and computer stuff, and he came in and said, I wish to complain because you sold me a 15-inch monitor and it's only 13.97 inches. And I was like, you do realize that they mean from the outside to the outside, not the visible part that you see in the middle. That's never counted on CRT machines. He's like, yes, it is. I'm like, no, it's not. I said, yes, it is. I said, well, you go down to Dick Smith or Tandy, you take your little ruler or measuring tape with you, find a 15-inch monitor, measure it across the screen diagonal, and you'll see that it's not 15 inches that you can see. It's the whole width of it is 15 inches. Because he's like, you guys ripped me off. You sold me a 13-inch monitor and it's 15. And he's like, rah, rah, rah. I said, well, you go off and you figure that. Come back tomorrow and you can tell me that I was right. And he went away, and I said, I don't care because it's my last day in the office. So I quit my job yesterday, so I'm not going to be here tomorrow, even if he does come back. But I know he's wrong.
Yeah. Well, that was it. We used to sell, when 15-inch monitors became a thing, 15-inch monitor, $499 or whatever it was, and then in fine print, 14.6-inch viewable or something.
Yeah, exactly. It had it printed on the box. If you can't read the box.
That's right.
1875, 17 nations, including US, signed the Convention du Mètre in Paris, France, establishing the International Bureau of Weights and Measures.
And you see that the what do they call it? The main weight, like the 1 kilo weight or whatever it is, of the thing that's kept in the vault. That's specifically that. Apparently, it doesn't weigh the same now because it's made of gold. And over the years since it was made, the gold's actually, it's actually like eroding at a known amount. So it's actually slightly out of whack now. So when they calibrate everything, it's actually wrong.
Yep.
Where are we? 1888. Emil Berliner. Berliner? No. Demonstrated his flat. Oops, don't click off it. His flat disc audio recording and reproduction in a lecture he gave to a Franklin Institute in Philadelphia, which was printed in the Institute's journal, volume 125, number 60.
Yep.
Hey, I don't know numbers. But yeah, apparently you had in the early 1880s, you had a contest developed between Thomas A. Edison on one side and Volta Laboratory team of Chichester on the other side. The objective was to transform in 1877, Edison's tinfoil phonograph or talking machine, which is what we actually have still this day have a recording of, which is amazing. Into an instrument capable of taking its place alongside typewriter and a business correspondence device.
Yep.
So I guess in the long run, that's what like a dictator became. But finding a substance to replace the foil as a recording medium. Both sides of the announced instrument using wax cylinder that could be incised vertically to match the sound vibration.
Did you see the video of the guy who brought I think it was Leo was talking about on his podcast, they had a guy bring in an original wax cylinder that had been recorded on like 100 years ago, and he brought it into the studio to show him. He's like, check this out. This is one of the wax... okay, it's smashed. There's
that was the setup, right?
One of the even fewer number of wax cylinders left in the world.
That was a setup because we can manufacture the wax cylinders. So it had an early gramophone.
Yep.
Which was a wax cylinder by hand crank, and then you had the flat one there, the flat disc one there. You can see that we're talking about in the thing. Patent number 372,716. What is with my mouse tonight? Every time I click somewhere, it highlights the whole.
And then his master's voice looks like the next one.
Oh, remember seriously? Those? Stop the gramophone. Yeah, the HMV.
His master's voice. Yeah.
the Berliner gramophone, early gramophone hand cranked. So, and then of course you got into the slightly more modern looking ones that you'd actually reckon. There you go. Nipper.
Little Nipper. He was everywhere, wasn't he?
1899. Burnley visited offices of the London Bench, then noticed a painting hanging on the wall of a small dog with a cocked head poised in front of a Johnson gramophone. Yep. This little terrier was listening to his master's voice coming from the horn. It had been painted by an English artist named Francis Bernard using his own little dog Nipper as the model. He contacted Bernard and asked him to make a copy. He bought the copy back to the US, immediately sought to trademark it, of course. Was too late for remedy. However, he let Montreal office use it and passed on to Eldridge Johnson, who began to print on his Victor recording catalogues and then on his labels of the disc. He then the gramophone branches overseas took it up, and shortly his master's voice became one of the best known trademarks in the world.
Yep.
So there you go. Birthplace of Victor. So yeah. So I didn't ever realize he's had a name. So there you go.
1891, the first public demonstration of a prototype kinetoscope was given at Edison's laboratory for approximately 150 members of the National Federation of Women's Clubs. The New York Sun reported on the demonstration.
Yeah, these kinetoscopes are an amazing bit of deal. Basically, if you've ever been, there's one. Well, I used to work down the Swan Hill Pioneer Settlement, and they had a really early version of one as well. But yeah, basically it's I'm trying to find a link that actually works. The last two links I've clicked on haven't actually done anything.
Nope.
But kinetoscopes are pretty cool. I'll try and find you one that's actually doing something. There we go. Good old Wikipedia saves the day again. Oh, great. Now Google's having a field day. See, modern technology and old technology don't go well. So yeah, you can see it there. It's basically, it's kind of a bit hard to see, but it's basically a endless loop film.
Yep.
And there's a peephole here, and there's a light source coming in from the, the peephole's on the top, and the light source comes in from the side.
Oh yeah.
And you put in your, shilling or, whatever.
Farthing.
Yeah, whatever it was at the time. And it used to scroll through.
Give me two Bs, we'd say.
Yeah, so it was an early motion picture exhibition device. It was designed for films to be viewed by one individual at a time through a peephole. It wasn't a movie projector in the true sense, but it used a series of still pictures. Don't forget, they didn't have a video camera, so they were actually one picture taken one after another. And back then, given that you had to stay still for, depending on the lighting, up to a couple of minutes to get a still picture.
That's why nobody was smiling in the early photos. Everyone looks grumpy because they had to sit there for half an hour.
That's right. Which is one thing, But imagine that. There's got to be 100 frames or so on there, probably running at, I don't know, maybe 10 frames a second. So there's probably 5 or 6 seconds worth of footage on that reel.
Yep.
And, so it takes you 6 seconds to view it, but it probably took them a week to shoot it.
Yep.
And
prepare everything.
But they were pretty amazing. They, there was also one, I'm just trying to see if they talk about it, but there was one that had sound as well. Yep. That sort of went with it, like it played like basically a gramophone in behind it as well. So there you go. So there's sort of some of the footage that you'd expect to see.
Dancing.
Yeah. So as 35mm film strip. So yeah, 35mm, one frame at a time, shot with a hand camera. So it was pretty neat. It really was. Construction of the imposing Black Marina. Full advantage of sunlight, tar paper lined studio was equipped with a hinged flip-up roof, and the entire studio could rotate on a track. And it was one of their studios. They turned it almost into a. Well, there you go. On the left-hand side there, you can see the first US copyright for an identifiable motion picture was given to Edison for Fred Ott Sneeze.
Is that what he's doing?
Yeah,
he patented a sneeze.
So that was October 6th, 1894 was when their first, copyright was put out for a film. So, and this was what he was building that big kinetoscope projector for, to show to the public, so they could actually see motion picture.
Yep.
in its exhibition business first generally charged $250 per viewing, which back in 1880 odd,
it was $1 million.
Yeah, not far off it. Not far off it at all. Oops, wrong button. That's okay. I figured it. Let's stop looking.
Computers are hard.
How do you compute? 1902. While going through objects recovered by drivers near
Antikythera.
Sure. Off the coast of Greece, archaeologist Valaros Staios.
I shouldn't give you these ones, should I?
Don't do words.
Valaros Staios discovered a strange device with gear wheels inside. The Antikythera mechanism is puzzling investigations for over 100 years.
You reckon I can't?
What? I can say the hard words, not the easy ones. What even is English?
Antikythera mechanism. So the Antikythera mechanism, what is it? Ah, that's what it is.
Yeah, it was a bronze box full of cogs and stuff that nobody knew. They thought it was a piece of crap, so they threw it in the corner. And then one guy had a look when it cracked open. He's like, hang on, this got gears in here. This is interesting.
Yeah, in 2005.
Yeah.
They decided to look at it. The key section of the dial found sitting unnoticed in the museum storeroom helped reveal that one of the dials was used to predict eclipses. Another big discovery was the identification of a pin and slot mechanism of varying speeds of the moon through the sky.
Yep.
The inscriptions also revealing novelties, although deciphering them is hard work. Some of them are less than 2 millimeters high, and there's no spaces to show where one word starts and the other finishes. There's more than double the number of legible characters.
Yep.
So yeah, it's so it is. It's a about a foot 2 meters rocky shelf. Yeah, so they still don't really, by the sounds of it, still don't really know what it actually is.
Yeah.
It contained a simple geared mechanism that drove pointers showing the position of the moon and sun in the sky. So it's like a lunar or a astrological timer.
A Lebanese man walked into the Science Museum in London with pieces of another ancient mechanism in his pocket. Curator Michael Wright realised the device was a Byzantine sundial from the 6th century AD, which also contained a simple geared mechanism that drove pointers showing the position of the moon, the sky and the sun. Studying astronomically enhanced sundial led Wright to Price's treatment of the Antikythera mechanism, which he saw serious holes. So they fixed it up thanks to this guy who walked in with one into the museum.
Isn't that funny how that happens?
1908, John Bardeen was born. He grew up to win the Nobel Prize twice, once for inventing the transistor and once for figuring out superconductivity. Transistor, very important.
Superconductivity is not far behind it.
See this computer here? No transistors would not be here.
Well, there's probably actually... Do we even use transistors anymore?
Yep.
Are
billions of them etched onto silicon chips.
Yeah, but they're not... but I mean, they're not transistors insofar as...
Not a little device that's solddered on like that, but
no,
it's etched into there to make a transistor.
Oh, it's all device. Silicon etched. But I mean, if he come around and he said, "Oh, here's a billion transistors on this chip,"
what?
You're like, what?
I made one. It was about this big.
Yeah, and it took me 7 weeks.
I figure that there's only the need for one transistor in the whole of the world ever.
Yeah, that's it.
No, it didn't work for IBM.
In 1923, the first patent application for the rotary dial telephone was submitted in France by Antoine Barney. Now, go back a couple episodes and we have a discussion on how the old telephone worked with the charcoal-packed headset.
I showed one to my daughter recently. She's like, how do you dial on that thing? I said, you put your finger in there. You go all the way around to there and then let go and it goes all the way back. Then you put your finger in and go all the way around to there and it goes all the way back.
So time consuming. Actually, do you know why? The only reason that 000 is the number for our emergency service?
It takes so long to ring and you won't make a mistake?
No, well the idea was that it was so unlikely that a child would dial it by accident.
Okay.
Because of that reason, because it was such a long rewind.
Same to start 911 with a 9, and then 11 is just little. That's actually faster and easy.
Yeah.
000 is a long way to go. Hey kid, if your mum's dying, I can't do that. Too far.
The problem with 911 is very few phones have the 11 on them.
Yeah.
if I was to, I would love to get, like, I love old meets new. So for me, a phone like this, yes, please.
Connected to your Android.
Like, that is the coolest possible phone you could have. There's nothing cooler, except maybe that one. But yeah, I mean, that's what I want to have, a house that looks like it could easily have stepped out of the 18th century. See, I don't like this one as much because you can tell that it's a modern phone.
Yep.
Because it's got, same as that one, you can tell it's a modern phone. So I don't really like that design as much as the one that has the hidden away features. Yeah, so I'd love that. You know, you could easily walk into any Elizabethan, you know, homestead, and that's what the house looks like.
And the way you get a line is you're going to have to press on the clicker.
Yeah.
Hello.
Well, that's what I mean. And actually, I was having a discussion with someone today about the old wood phones. The old ones, obviously, you could use them for trunk calls. Party lines and stuff like that, because it was all shared exchanges and stuff. But these you used to have to ring on and ring off. And there's two reasons for that. One was to energize the line to let the exchange know that you wanted to make a phone call, and it energized the line, it pulsed the line at their end, and they could see what line was active. Yep. And you had to ring off to tell them to do the opposite. But the other reason you rung on and rung off, and sometimes if you hadn't used the phone for a while, you would do it a lot longer, is because it actually had a little generator in the phone. When the phone was active, it had the 3-volt signal coming in over the line. When the phone wasn't active, they had a little carbon batteries sitting in them that would eventually run down. So you had to actually ring on to put enough power into that to amplify the signal to work with your handset and stuff.
Yep.
But those batteries, and I actually handled one today, so I know they're still around, was date stamped like 1890 or 1899 or some ridiculously old date stamp. And it actually still was a functioning battery.
Nice.
Like, you know, this battery's over 100 years old.
They don't make them like that these days.
No, they don't. And that was the thing. This thing was over 100 years old.
Yep.
And was still functioning. Batteries don't do that these days. Like, not even close. 3 to 5 years max out of anything.
Yeah.
You know, but no, it was used. Actually, I think that's what it was used in one of the these split style ones, I think, which are an older style phone. They had batteries were down in the base of the box there.
Yep.
So, but yeah, no, it's pretty amazing, that sort of stuff. It's if you ever get a chance to, like, if you do enjoy technology, which obviously you do, because you're listening to this show, if you haven't had a chance to go to a museum, to the tech department, have a look around, this is what, you know, this is what led to what we have now. You need to appreciate this to appreciate what you've got now. It's hard to believe that this one device revolutionized the world in such a way that
and
allowed,
now it looks like that.
Yeah, or that, or hang on, it could possibly look like that.
Yep.
Or it could look like that, or you know,
they all look the same now. Somebody should have patented that shape.
Yeah, I know, right? But yeah, so yeah, Samsung.
Have you got one of these?
Apple patent stealer.
The IBM 701, Model 701. Have you got that in your search engine there? 1952, IBM announced the Model 701, the first computer designed for scientific calculation. The 701 used electrostatic storage tube memory and kept information on magnetic tape. It sold much better than expected, with 19 governments and large companies snapping them up.
I'm not surprised. Look at the size of them. So, they're pretty neat. The 701
kept your room warm in the winter.
Oh, and then some. It also, like, dimmed the lights in the street every time you wanted to do something.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty sure. I'm just trying to find the electromagnetic memory. I believe is a valve bank.
Oh yeah.
So basically, this was slightly later. The earlier computers used mercury pressure switches.
Yep.
That when the using sound wave would create standing waves. So basically, you had the original YouTube was actually literally used in computers. That used to come down. It was a bent pipe, effectively, and it was filled with mercury.
Yep.
And on each side, it had an electrode, and it had a speaker on top. And when it wanted to digitize a 1 or a 0, which is basically what computers talk, it would pulse that at a certain width. And depending on which way it pulsed the water, the standing wave would either go up like that or would go down like that on each side. And it would contact on each side of the electrodes, because mercury is conductive.
Yep.
And so with that one motion, it could control if it was a 1 or a 0. So the binary computer, the digital computer was being controlled by an analog system.
Yep.
So it was pretty intense. So that's cool. Where are we? No, where are we? Really? There we go. Don't mind me.
Pick something you like. We're running out of time again.
It helps when you actually look at the right screen instead of looking at the wrong screen, going, "Why do my show notes look wrong?" But it's all good. Okay, 1958. Velcro, you know, that thing that Kiwis love and sheeps hate, was registered, protecting the name of the multi-purpose material that manages cables everywhere.
Nice.
Not my preferred usage for Velcro, but hey.
I got twist ties on my cables.
I've got electrical tape.
Because whenever I buy something, it comes with a bunch of twist ties. I'm like, what do I use that for? Oh, I know. I'll tie up all my cables. That'll do.
That's it.
1973, Bob Metcalfe at the Xerox Palo Alto Research Center, or PARC, wrote a memo on an IBM Selectric typewriter outlining how to connect personal computers to a shared printer. Metcalfe says if Ethernet was invented in any one memo by any person on any day, this was it.
Yeah, pretty much. Selectric typewriters were an amazing invention on their own, because they took the problem of the QWERTY keyboard, or to the lesser extent the Dvorak keyboard, jamming, which actually went to a QWERTY keyboard. We originally used the Dvorak keyboard. It was actually too efficient, and typists were jamming the hammers. They were coming up too quick, and they were jamming up at the print head. So IBM devised the magic, I believe it was called the magic ball.
Yep.
But yeah, Selectric, and it was able to do something like 1,000.
I had one of those. You shake it and it goes, Outlook not so good.
No, that was the magic 8 ball.
Ah, you shake it says Outlook not so good, and I'm like, that's correct. That's why I don't use it. Tomorrow I'm going to ask about Microsoft Word.
That's it. And as you can see there, the other cool part about it was you could swap it out for italics or bold or courier or different font sizes you could have just by simply swapping it. So basically it was really the start of modern word processing, I suppose.
Yep. Different typefaces.
And it was the weirdest sound. That clip, I've had the sound turned down because you guys can't hear it anyway, but I remember my auntie, I think, had one of these things, and the sound it made, tell you. Crazy. It was pretty intense. Speaking of 1973, the United States launched Skylab, which is part of the Apollo Space program, which is probably really the integral part, the foundation, I suppose, for the last 40 years of the space exploration, I suppose, or at least from the American standpoint.
1976, Atari released a video game, Breakout, making the paddle controller useful for something besides Pong. Can I still have the screenshots on my website there?
I do. Sorry, I just had my
you can see the show notes there. Yep. There we go. There's the one I made on the left there called Archibald for the VZ200. We had 4 colors. I wrote that in the year 2000 in small c.
Yep. You did a few other ones as well. You Chess and Crash and Dawn Patrol. And
yeah, a lot of those were made by a group called Dubois and McNamara.
Weren't you saying that yours had music?
Yeah, mine, I tried to make music in it, so when it started up, it'd try and play a similar tune to Arkanoid, da, 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 da. And then the end of it, when you lost your life, you go, da, 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 da. None of the other VZ games had any music like that either, so I thought that was pretty cool. Although the game Circus, which had a seesaw at the bottom, and guys would bounce up and hit balloons at the start of it, would go da 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 da. My body lays over the ocean, and that was all I had. So.
Dear. Yeah, as I was talking before about the Dvorak keyboard. We'll just step back to 1936 for a sec. The University of Washington Professor August Dvorak received a patent for his new, more efficient keyboard layout. While widely recognised superior to QWERTY, the Dvorak keyboard is not widely used. Although I've noticed in the last few years, it's actually starting, like a lot of keyboards you can buy in Dvorak configurations now. Because it is more efficient. If you start to learn on a Dvorak keyboard, it really is much more efficient.
Yeah, and they say it only takes like a week or two before you're proficient in it, and then you forget the your finger memory for a QWERTY keyboard, and you can do Dvorak all the time. My problem is, I'd love to learn it, then I'd go into the office and I'd be like, now I've got to buy a keyboard for work and have one at home as well.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, you can see why it's more efficient. Like, if you look at the pictures, you can see because your center row where your fingers are is all your vowels and all your high-use letters.
Yep.
So it's much more efficient. But as I said, the only reason QWERTY won out was because Dvorak was actually too quick.
Yep.
That's it. There's no other reason that we would be using QWERTY today. Whoa, what on earth is that? Sorry, I just found the most intense-looking keyboard I think I've ever seen in my life. It's called the Moltron, an original ergonomic two-handed keyboard.
Yep.
You've got
crazy
half your QWERTY there, your numeric keyboard in the center, your left and up arrow and enter key there, your down and right arrow and your spacebar there. Wow.
That'd take a bit of getting used to.
Just in case that wasn't complicated enough, they bought it out with a trackpad as well.
And they sold 2.
And both the banks. You wonder why you stand in line for 14 hours. Have you ever... Oh, that's a whole nother thing. You seen the keyboards and the stuff they use at banks? Who at any point went, I've got a fantastic idea for a keyboard?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, here we go. A Moltron single-handed keyboard.
Nice.
It's, whoops. Uh-oh. Yeah, whatever. Just show a picture.
There's one that I saw that had like only 5 keys, one for your thumb, which mostly did space and switch, and 1, 2, 3, 4 for your fingers, and you could do all of the characters like that.
There you go. There's a single-handed keyboard.
That's nuts.
That has theoretically every key you need.
Right-handed only.
Yeah, it'd be right-handed only, and then you've got like here you've got your down arrow and stuff here, and spacebar there. Your U key is there. Oh, man, it's XGMPBJFDOLR 3ATEHN. Oh no, S. It's a really bad picture. ZYCK asterisk V QW question mark. Man, really?
That's crazy.
Wow. Who decided that was a good idea? You can imagine a guy woke up and want to go, I really need to justify my existence today. What could I possibly do?
Crazy.
Nuts. Okay. Sorry, where were we up to? I completely lost the plot. There we go. 1970 something, weren't we?
Yep.
Okay, so the West Coast Computer Fair took place in Palo Alto in 1977, of course, in California. The star of the show would turn excuse me, Furball. The star of the show would turn out to be an Apple II. The computer featured a built-in keyboard, 16 kilobits of memory, basic, and 8 expansion slots, all for the marvelously low one-off cost of $1,300.
Nice. 1980, Namco released an arcade game called Pacman, which they couldn't release it in the US with that name because people would rub off the end of the P and make it into an F. So when they released in the US in October, the name was altered to Pacman.
Although I can see that the Pacman makes more sense in terms of what the character actually is.
Yep.
Because I never understood what Pacman was.
No. Marketing.
1981, that device that we never needed. The first mouse was integrated into a personal computer, made its appearance with the Zero Star workstation. And the original mice, if my mouse is long enough to show you on camera, were like, we use a mouse that way, so the cords, on top of the bench. The original mice were actually that way.
Yep. That's a bit hard to use.
the cord coming back because it looked like a mouse with a tail.
Yep.
So, and ironically, this probably isn't much smaller than the original. This is I use a gaming mouse for day-to-day stuff. It's got counterweights and stuff in there, but I like it because it's really heavy and you have to actually put effort into moving it. Yeah. You don't
I have to have all the buttons on the thumb. I can't use without thumb buttons.
It's funny. I never use those, and I'll be doing something, I'll accidentally press it, and something will happen. I'm like, oh!
It went back a page in my browser.
I can't think of the brand, but a really high-end gaming mouse I was given, and I couldn't figure out how to use it, and I gave it to my nephew, who's a hardcore gamer, and we counted it. It has 26 buttons.
Nice.
On the
Here's
mouse.
one for you to Google that I had, the Evoluent vertical mouse.
Okay.
See if you can find that in Google.
The what?
Evoluent, EVOLUENT, vertical mouse. It's supposed to be really good for people with RSI.
No, okay. Oh, is that the higher looking, uprighty sort of looking one?
You turn your mouse that way.
Yep. How do they work? I've looked at those and I've sort of thought, I don't know.
Right. I quite liked it, yeah. I didn't have that one. Mine was just beige. But it worked really well and it was good for RSI. Yeah, this one is okay because it's so big and your whole hand fits over it. If you're trying to cramp your hand up onto a little mouse, it's no good. That's what's bad for
Mine's the same, yeah. My whole hand fits over, which is why I have such a big mouse.
Yeah.
But I can kind of see how that would work. It's an interesting idea. I don't know if it'd be any good for gaming per se, but they come in different sizes too.
Yep.
I don't know if it'd be any good for gaming, but it'd be really good, if you're sitting in front of an office, like sitting at a computer all day. Oh, there's
and it's still retro because that was like 15 years ago that I had that. So
Shop Prostrate Penguin. What? Oh wow, that's
another mouse. That's joystick mouse.
Same one. Volume vertical mouse review. Must be just a different version.
Yep.
But there's been some interesting developments in mouse technology. But the one I gave my nephew had like 26 buttons. It had it had two different scroll wheels.
Yep.
It had your normal up and down one, but it had a left and right one as well. It had the entire mouse was adjustable. It actually had a bolt that ran down the center line of the whole mouse, and you could actually undo it, and you could actually lengthen the mouse at your hand. And then it had another wings that come out to the side, and you could make the pop out. So depending on how big your hand was, you could actually make this thing
and jets underneath, and then it could take off and fly around the room.
It was ridiculous. It really was.
1989, Nintendo released the original Game Boy in Japan. It sported the same controls as the NES and used black and grey pixels for the display. 1990, Microsoft released Windows 3.0. Featured big improvements in interface and multitasking. Its control panel feature caught the eye of Apple, which sued and lost.
Yeah. Isn't it funny how the Game Boy came out before Windows? I mean, doesn't that tell you where our priorities were? And actually, if you want to watch a really good sort of history of the Game Boy, check out Ashens on YouTube, Ashens. He's a writer, actor, comedian, sort of bundled into one, but he loves retro tech, and he's actually done a Game Boy through the ages, so how it started off, the original Game Boy, then all the accessories, and then as they got later on, the different versions and all this sort of stuff. And it's really good, really good. It's really interesting. Like all up, there's probably 3 or 4 hours of watching.
Cool.
And it's definitely worth watching if you're into that sort of thing. It's amazing how much in Australia we didn't get. Like there's so many of these features that you look at it and go, well, if we had have got those, it would have made this an entirely different.
Yeah.
You know. Like there was networking stuff and everything.
Well, that's the whole reason that Pokemon was invented was because they created the link cable between two Game Boys, and they wanted to see if they could send data across. And so this guy who worked at Nintendo is like, well, how about if I make this little game, we'll create this little character here and give him these statistics, and then connect it to the other Game Boy. He's got the same game, but he's got a different character, and then we could have them fight. And then they showed that to the owners of Nintendo, the CEO, and that they're like, what do you think of this? They're like, ka-ching, here's an idea. Let's turn that into a whole thriving business for the next 20 years. Then suddenly Pokemon everywhere.
Well, that's it. I mean, it's kind of like
just to test the link cable between Game Boys.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like this this configuration, this thing here, where we had the whole printer and stuff like that, where you'd printed out. It had a camera on the back of the Game Boy, and it had a printer and everything you could actually print to, and you know, it had like a built-in sort of like Photoshop-y sort of deal.
Yep.
You know, all built into the back of this, well, it wasn't really built into the back of it. It was the cartridge that went into the top of it.
Had it built in.
And sort of, yeah.
Yep.
It's like
pretty cool.
Hugely higher resolution. But yeah, I mean, then there was, you know, magnification screens and extra
add-on lights,
add-ons and control panels and speakers, and it no longer was a portable device anymore. It sort of became this thing that just
well, as they'd said, I read somewhere that the Game Boy only had a single speaker built into it, but everything was recorded.
All the games were recorded
stereo. So if you plug in your headphones, you could hear stereo, but if you're just listening to it, it was all mono. So you get something like that, you get the full stereo effect. And if your eyes were a bit bad, you could zoom in by the look of that.
Yeah, magnification screen with the backlighting, and the thumb had the proper thumb toggle control.
And the battery would last all of 5 minutes.
Well, Well, the funny thing with this particular one is reviewing is the light unit part had batteries.
Yep.
The speaker powered part had batteries, and the Game Boy had batteries. The whole unit together used something like 12 AA's.
Here's a question for you: why are there no B batteries? There's AA, AAA, C, D.
There's A's and half A's and half double A's.
Where's a B? Why didn't they do
There probably is. We do AB batteries at work.
There's a D that's a square one.
Well, we do ABs.
Yeah.
So, and they're half the height of a C, but the same width.
If anybody knows about batteries, I had to ask the expert. 1991, the team moved from Sun Microsystems to work on a secret project called Project Green using its Oak programming language. The whole thing later became Java. And in 1995, Sun Microsystems Incorporated announced the programming language Java and the accompanying web browser Hot Java at the Sun World 95 convention. I remember that. You ever play any games that run in Java, perhaps?
I would never expose my system to Java. It's too valuable.
Too clunky and slow. What could run on there? I was reading some interesting tweets from Notch this week, and people were complaining that Minecraft is using up 100% of their CPU all the time. And he's like, that's using the full capacity of your computer, which is why you bought it, so that if a game is using 50%, there's 50% of your CPU the game could be doing better things with to bring you a better game. Why would you want it to use part of your stuff? Use up the whole CPU. That's the best idea in the world.
That's it. So, yeah, so as you're saying, why is there no Bs? Well, there is. There's the most common sizes, as you know, which are your normal AAAs, AA's, C's, D's.
Why not a single A?
Then you got your 4.5 volts, which are a little bit less common, but not uncommon. A 9 volt and a normal 6 volt, which, by the way, if you ever take one of those 6 volt Lenton batteries and crack it in half, it's full of 4 D cells. And a little bit of cardboard to pack them up.
They're huge.
Then there's half AA, which is like a AA battery, but half the height, obviously. Yeah. There's quad A, which is half as thick again as, well, you can see the matchstick there. They're half as thick again as a AAA. There's your normal A, which is twice as thick as an A, but thinner than a C. There's your B, which is as thick as an A, but as tall as a C. Then there's your F, which is 2 Ds on top of each other, effectively. Then there's an N, which is a half AA, or it's more like a half AAA because it's skinnier than a AA. There's a number 6, which is basically the only thing I've ever seen these for. They're called an ignition cell. These are what I was saying are those old carbon zinc batteries that they use in the old telephones.
Oh, yeah.
The other thing they use them for, there we go, ignition systems. The other thing that they use them for these days is if you've got a radio control car that runs on nitro, it's a petrol one, there's start batteries for that. Yeah, glow plugins. There we go. I've had to read that. It would have told me right over there. Then there's sub-Cs, which are half C cells as well. And mainly sub-Cs are generally used for your nickel metal hydride and your nickel cadmium, like drill battery packs and stuff like that. So then there's A23s, which you'll always find. A23 is usually what's in your alarm for key fobs.
Yep.
And A27s are in your key fobs as well. Then there's all these other obscure ones that are used. Yeah, then there's like all these 45 volt and 67 volt, like 9 volt looking batteries, and there's a whole range of big reds, the big old red. You don't see these anymore. My dad had one of these as I was growing up.
Yep.
Big 6 volt.
Did you stick your tongue across the terminals?
Not on. You couldn't. The terminals were bloody 6 inches apart on those things. But yeah, so there's all these others. So if you ever get bored, PP9. It's like a giant 9 volt. That's cool. If you ever get bored, grab yourself 2 batteries. Grab yourself a cheap $2 shop Lantern Dolphin battery and crack it open, and you'll see there'll be 4 D cells inside packed up on cardboard, or there could be 4 D cells in a slightly longer tube, but there's still only D cells inside. And grab yourself a 9 volt battery and peel the 9 volt battery, being careful. Don't use alkaline batteries for this, please. Don't, just don't. And yeah, your 9 volt battery will basically contain, where's that picture I saw? These ones here, where they've got all these cells here are 1.25 volt cells, or 1.5 volt cells. So a 9 volt battery has 6 of these oval shaped 1.5 volt cells stacked on top of each other.
Right.
So, and you can actually use them as 1.5 volt cell. They've got a positive and negative side, but even though they look like a single piece of carbon. So you can literally pull them apart and you actually get 6 1.5 volt batteries. So
nice.
Anyway, that's a bit of a tangent, but yeah, sorry. I enjoy things like that.
That's all right. We got 92 and 95 if you want to do those.
92, okay. In 1992, Texas Instruments decided, all on their lonesome with no help from anyone else, to take on the dominance of Intel, announcing its own 486 microprocessor. Cyrex Corp designed the chip for the TI, but proved unsuccessful and weakening Intel's dominance.
I had a CI chip. It was crap.
I had Cyrex
Worst chip ever.
I had a Cyrex 486, which was fine.
I had a 586.
Wasn't any difference. Then I had the 586, which was no, hang on, there was another one in there too. No, was it the 586? The early 586 worked on the late 486 motherboards.
Yeah, and then they had the 686 as well.
Then they had the 686, which was the Pentium equivalent, wasn't it? Yeah, that's right. Yep, and they
didn't emulate it well enough.
The 586 was basically, it was the last of the chips that didn't require a fan. Because it had a really, like, they actually had the CPU. I think it was one of the first CPUs that had the heatsink integrated into it. Because they weren't separate. They always came together. But my 586, I had a 586, I don't know what it was, like a 166 or something. Because the 486 DX4 100 was technically the fastest 486 you could go. And I think it was like a 120 or I can't remember, 130 or something was the 586. And I had the 486 DX4 100. All my mates upgraded to Pentium 75s, which, if you don't know, were all made as Pentium 200s, and they all failed the Pentium 200 speed test. So they dropped them down, they passed to the 75. So hey, let's just call these a 75. And the 90s and stuff. So as the technology got better, they were actually building them all as 200 megahertz CPUs. They were just passing them off at their fail point. But they all went Pentium 75s and Pentium 90s. I went the 586 route, the 586 overclock chip, and I could run Duke Nukem in VGA mode at 800 by 600, hosting the LAN party. Under Windows, where everyone was still running under DOS. I could run under Windows 95, and I had the highest frame rate. I had like
everyone was
95
jealous.
frames a second, something. Yeah, and it was all because of that chip. Like, it was lower in some aspects, like the what do they call it? The MMX, the multimedia extension or whatever it was. It was weaker in that regard, which, for playing movies was a downfall or things like that, but it had a massive level 2 cache, relatively speaking. It had a higher mass coprocessor speed and things like that. So it was for gaming, at the time, that thing was untouchable. Nothing come. It was like a Pentium 200 was the first Pentium that. Once the Pentium 200s come out,
that was it.
Then I went to AMD like 166 or something. But yeah, like that thing was amazing. I loved it.
95.
95. Speaking of Java, Sun Microsystems
I did
announced
that
a
one.
program.
Next one.
You said 95. Oh, that 95.
Yeah.
The other 95.
95B.
German electronics company Escom AG bought the rights to the name, patents, and intellectual property of the Commodore Electrics Limited for $10 million. Commodore had gone bankrupt the year before. Well,
the
obviously
most popular
not.
selling computers in the world, Commodore 64 and Amigas, and they went bankrupt anyway.
They can't have gone that bankrupt if they're still worth $10 million.
Well, the intellectual
IP.
property, yeah.
Well, as we discussed a couple episodes ago, they're still a going concern. Like, there's still
Yeah, you can get
systems
Amigas.
being pumped out as Commodores and Amigas, so there must be something in that.
In 2000, the United States government shut off selective access of the GPS system. GPS system tautology. That meant accurate positioning was no longer restricted to the US military. Positioning accuracy on the first day without selective access went from a 45-meter radius to a 6-meter radius, and of course created the phenomenon. A geocache in 2000 was hidden outside Beaver Creek, Oregon, kicking off the first Great American GPS dash hunt and the hobby now called geocaching, or geocaching if you're American, which I still do every now and then with my daughter because it's awesome.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, do you have cache or cache?
Yeah.
You know, where do you store someone? You store something
used
in
to
a
store
cache.
it in, well, they had cache and cache. I say cache.
Cache is only, well, as far as I can remember, cache only came around in the computer terminology. It was always cache because you store something in a cache, like a hidey hole.
Well, that's what the cache is, a place for temporary storage of stuff,
Yeah.
so it'll go faster.
But for some reason, we changed it to cache. I have to agree with the Yanks on that one. I think they got it right.
Well, they're called
I-
one cache and one cache and spelled the same way.
I don't say it very often, but I think Yanks got it right in that case.
Thanks for listening and watching another episode of the Old Fart Geeks podcast. Make sure you subscribe in iTunes or your other favourite podcast application. You can also watch our show on YouTube at youtube.com/oldfartgeeks. Maybe you're already doing that. Click like, say hello to us, send us messages. We love to hear from you. Don't forget to subscribe so you can keep up to date with our shows.
Like Linux, GIF.
Linux.
You can follow us on Twitter, by the way, it's GIF.
You're
Our
a
accounts
GIF.
are at Warlock, which is WAULOK.
Your face is
and
a GIF.
At,
Gotcha.
at Mr. Tomkinson, MRTOMKNSON. And our show's account is at Old Fart Geeks. I always thought it was GIF, but apparently it's not. Music for our show is provided by Free Music Archive. So until next time, guys, thanks for listening.
See you later, GIF.
Yeah.